We've received quite a few letters from our club members at home about teenage suicide and depression and how it's affected their lives.
We all have our ups and downs, but true depression is more than just feeling down occasionally. It's an illness that needs special treatment because it affects over 10 million people every year in this country and 1 out of every 25 teens. We'd like to devote today's Hall of Fame to learning more about this subject.
Today, our 3 honorees will share with us their first-hand knowledge and advice on the subject of depression and teenage suicide. So please help me in welcoming Aaron Briley, Melissa Montgomery, and Robert Bukowski.
First of all, I'd like to thank you guys for your courage for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Melissa, can you first tell us what depression is like? I mean, what was it like for you?
Well, you have to remember that it isn't just a feeling. It's more of a sickness. And if it gets too far, it can kill you because it'll drive you to that point. It's like no one wants you. No one cares about you. At least that's how you feel. You don't want to be around anyone. Right. You don't want to go on.
Aaron, how was it for you? What were you thinking and feeling during your times of depression?
Well, I was real lonely because my best friend that I'd had since I was 2 was doing drugs and alcohol. And it was like, you know, I'd lost her. A good friend of mine who's like a role model had just died. And then I just moved from this real big town to a real small town, big adjustment. So I was real lonely. And I didn't want to be around anybody because nobody understood me because, you know, we're on just totally different levels.
Robert, what was it like for you?
It was real depressing, coming to realize with who I was, being gay, people constantly teasing me made me want to isolate myself and be alone, you know, feeling like I wasn't worth who I am.
Now, Robert, were you depressed because you were gay?
No, I started getting depressed when I wasn't being accepted by other people and constantly teased. A lot of it's my mother. So I thought life wasn't worth living, and I constantly was isolating myself.
Now, all of you guys, was it a certain friend you went to, or did you go to a counseling group, something like that? How was it like for you, Robert?
I have a psychiatrist that I go to every Saturday, and I finally came out to him 2 years ago, and he's helped me through my depression and my feelings that I've gone through, and I'm still going through.
I really didn't. It wasn't like voluntary. I started ditching school. I didn't want to be there anymore. And at one point, the sheriff was called out because I wouldn't go to school. And I was that same day admitted into the hospital.
How common is suicide?
Thoughts of suicide are probably common amongst teenagers, but while attempts and actual successful suicides are not.
It's most common in people who have mental disorders and are addicted to drugs and alcohol. It's, you know, they think about it more.
Do you guys believe that suicide, so to speak, is a way of just crying out for help?
I think some people actually don't want to kill themselves, you know. They don't want to live, but they don't want to die, and it's just, sometimes they just say they're going to commit suicide because that's the most extreme thing you can say to get help, and they don't actually want to do it.
Also, suicide is more of a cop-out. People don't want to deal with the pain and the feelings that they're feeling, and so they just want to quit. They don't want to go on. They don't want to deal with it.
What kind of symptoms would I look for in someone who might be depressed?
Some of the symptoms are changing of eating and sleeping habits, a loss of energy, anxious or empty moods.
So it's difficulty concentrating, making decisions. You're real pessimistic about everything. You feel worthless, everything's hopeless. You feel guilty, like you let everybody down like a failure, and, you know, thinking about suicide a lot.
There's uncontrollable crying, people just being so sad that they cry and they cry and they cry, and it's hard to get them to stop. They have a hard time stopping themselves. There's irritability and anger. People will be really snappy, really touchy. If you say one thing to them, they'll jump right down your throat. Right. And if anyone ever has 4 or more of these symptoms at one time, and they last for longer than a period of 2 weeks, they seriously need to consider getting professional help.
Can depression be treated?
Yes, there are hotlines that you can call, or you can go to therapy, or you can call your local community hospital and they'll be more than willing to help you.
Wow, now what if, say, you have a close friend and you start to recognize these symptoms? How should you go about handling it? I mean, you don't want to jump right into it, of course, but how would you deal with them?
I think you should open up, talk to them, you know, let them know that you're there, you know, that you're their friend. If they don't want to deal with it, I think that your next step would be to talk to their school counselor, see if their school counselor would come in on it and talk to them. And if they need you to, you can always say, you know, I'll go with you, you know, just for
Right.
support.
For a friend, for support, always have someone there.
You know, because it gets to such a point where you're going to lose somebody you really care about, and you don't want that to happen.
Okay, well, we're going to go to Tony now, who has someone in the audience with a question.
Okay, what's your question?
Melissa, how did you change your attitude about yourself?
It took a lot. There was treatment, lots of treatment. I went through treatment 3 different times of being hospitalized. It kind of helps you to realize, you know, through all the talking and all the work that you have to do, because it's not camp, it's not summer camp when you're going through this stuff. It's really not, it's hard work, and you realize things about yourself that you never really realized before.
Is it possible just to tell yourself to cheer up and will things get better?
There are some situations where you can say cheer up, but you won't really feel cheer up. You know, you can say it and you can try to pretend to feel that way, but that isn't really how you feel.
Okay, I have another question here.
Why do some kids commit suicide?
It's a way out there. It's what's running through their mind at the time. You know, life's not worth it. It's not worth living and going through problems. And a lot of the times, it doesn't happen. They'll just say it.
And like I said earlier, sometimes it's just because they've cried for help so long and nobody's listened to them, so they just go ahead and do it, think nobody cares.
Erin, what do you do when you're feeling lonely now?
I normally call a friend and talk to her, or just do things that I enjoy, you know, get my mind off of the fact that I feel lonely or something. You just really got to think about what makes you happy and what you won't feel so lonely.
What's each of your advice to someone who is feeling depressed?
Probably to first realize the fact that, you know, they're feeling this way, because, you know, you can't do anything unless you admit it. Getting help that makes them feel comfortable, being able to talk about it, and just, you know, realizing how they want to feel and what they want to do.
You have to be willing to do it. People aren't going to change you. You have to change yourself. You know, you have to go to get help, therapists, family, friends.
I think you should also go to someone to talk to that knows how you're feeling, because there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way you do.
Obviously, your experiences have been a rough road, but it's just amazing how you guys have overcome it, and I really appreciate your courage coming forth and teaching us all about it. And for that, we'd like to welcome you into our Hall of Fame.
Erin, Robert, and Melissa, thank you so much for sharing your stories, and congratulations.